Hi, this is Gary Auden, and I'm bringing you an EDUcast. SIP, the solution for effective communication, sponsored by SNOM and Telecom Reseller. There'll be three of us on the EDUcast today: Brian Tompkins, Vice President of Sales for SNOM, and Tommy Lee, Director of Strategic Alliances for SNOM as well, and I'm Gary Auden. As we always do, we talk about what we're going to talk about. We're going to start off with discussing SIP connections and why they're valuable. Then we're going to move into SIP devices such as conferencing technologies, DECT Wireless phones, key systems, public address systems, and then moving on to looking at how do you select the right solutions for your communications. So Tommy, let's get started with you first. What is the advantage of connecting to SIP? Why does it help us with all forms of communications?
Yeah, thank you, Gary. SIP allows all businesses to be able to connect to an open standard. And what that means is it's a big upgrade from the past where phone systems were all proprietary. And then now with the new standard of SIP, it allows for both audio, voice, as well as video connections, and as well as messaging to all come to one common ground, which is titled SIP, which stands for Session Initiation Protocol.
So now that we know about SIP, we'll be talking about multiple communications devices. Let's start off with conferencing technologies.
Absolutely. With conferencing technologies, one of the things that you want to do is ease of use. The thing about conferencing is that very often people gather around in conference rooms and you realize that people are trying to work around the technology where it should be just the opposite. The technology should be invisible. If you look at the table that you see in front of you today, you see basically a wired or wireless solution in front of you that people can just intuitively dial the number that they need to access to with a very simple keyboard and be able to provide wireless microphones that are totally integrated within the system. Because the thing about conferencing systems is that you want it to be scalable so that the one platform can support a small conference room and scale, as you would see on the picture in front of you, to a much larger conference room and have them all work as one system together.
One of the problems I hear, and my own experience with conferencing, is there are a number of impairments. What kinds of impairments are out there, and how do we deal with them?
Well, one of the impairments that I find is actually sound performance. Very often, no matter how good a microphone is on a speaker, you cannot beat the distance. Very often, in most situations, the conference phone sits in the middle of the table where you have a large rectangular table. And those that are distant, you can always tell that they're very far away, and people can actually say, can you come closer to the microphone? And that's why people have a tendency to lean over on the table. And so what we've done is actually been able to integrate wireless microphones that is totally intuitive, where you just take it off the center console and be able to place the microphone right in front of the people itself. And what that does is that takes away the distance factor, and everybody sounds as though they're actually hovering right around the phone, and it enables the attendees to concentrate on their work versus trying to work around the technology.
You've brought up the term wireless several times. How do we make the decision between wired and wireless?
A lot of it depends on the application. For wired applications, the obvious advantage there is actually great network throughput. But in actuality, for example, a great wired application would be close, dense contact centers. When people are very dense together in a closed application, wireless tends to be very noisy in that application, and that's where wired technology is really good. This is especially true where wired is good for people that are typically static within their offices. But there are wireless technologies that help cater to people that are more mobile. For example, you have doctors, flexible office workers that have to drift between the front office to the back office, and as well as campus type employees, where employees not only go from their office but can roam from building to building. So very often with DECT, you end up having to go well beyond the Bluetooth technology that everybody is very familiar with, and gives them that roaming capability that enables them to leave the desk without necessarily disconnecting from the call. And based on a lot of the technology advances, all the batteries are now can last all day without even worrying about running out of battery time to support a full day's conversation.
On a previous slide, you said the word DECT, D-E-C-T. What is a DECT phone and why is that a superior technology?
Well, the reason why DECT technology is so popular is that DECT technology is a very mature technology. The fact is, if you're probably as old as we are, you probably have experienced DECT technology at your home. When wireless technology first came out, most home phones graduated into DECT technology, giving you the capability of just extending beyond just the kitchen talk to now having a private talk in your bedroom, which is far away from where the kitchen is. But why DECT? The DECT technology is a radio type technology, which doesn't encumber the network performance. For example, you can have 50 radios in your room, and then having 50 radios on listening to audio provides absolutely no load whatsoever on the network, whereas opposed to wired technology, it'll always put in demand resources from the bandwidth. So DECT is really what I consider the best of both worlds, giving you wireless flexibility while at the same time not putting a load on your network.
Let's continue talking about that. I notice on this screen you're talking about distance, which is much further than Bluetooth, but also, does DECT interfere with Wi-Fi or are they separate?
Very early on, back in the previous DECT situations, maybe some of us have experienced it where you can talk on a DECT phone and somebody would walk by with a mobile phone and hear interference. Not anymore with the latest DECT 6.0 technology. One of the caveats that was always associated with DECT was that it was always had limited in range. When you look at bullet number 1, it typically had a 300-foot distance from the base station. Now, with the latest technologies that we bring into the marketplace, we have gone beyond the 300 feet because we could bring in a network-based technology which now can go from an SMB environment to a full campus environment, being able to network a bunch of base stations together. So when you look at that, now you combine, in essence, a radio frequency which provides no load to the network, while at the same time, be able to transmit your full high-definition voice across a radio network into what we call wireline speeds, which cannot be beat, versus wireless LAN. Now, a lot of people talk about DECT versus wireless LAN, such as Wi-Fi, and with Wi-Fi, typically you have to make complicated data priorities, making sure that the voice takes higher priority than the data network. Otherwise, what you will hear is every other word in a typical conversation. So it's far intuitive to deploy, as well as easy to implement for our partners out there.
We've been talking about, I guess you might say the enterprise, but I would think that the remote office, home office, the small business community would really benefit from wireless technologies and developing what I might call key systems for the small business.
Yes, the robo as well as SMB needs definitely brings up a lot of challenges, not only to our partners, but for the end user. Typically in robo or SMB needs, they don't have an IT person on staff. And so they really highly dependent upon external people for training. And so you're trying to introduce an audio network into people's homes in many cases, and small businesses which are not outfitted. So what happens is that with a key system, it becomes extremely intuitive, where you don't have to learn about complicated call park scenarios and learning how to transfer calls. What you do is just press on the line, and you can tell just by looking at the classic keys on who's online, who's not online, who's actually received a call. And it's very easy to train a person to be able to click on any key that's blinking, so that whether they're remote or close by, you can just say, Gary, pick up on line 2, and you just pick on the clicking key, and it alone will do the transfer as well as the call management along for you.
That implies that it would be really handy to have a wireless key system. Is that true?
That is true. One of the challenges in an SMB is that very often these small offices, as well as even your home office, are not necessarily wired for Cat5 or Ethernet connection. So what you can do is actually locate the actual DECT base station, which is on our key system, next to the switch and next to the router, so that the connection to where the end user sits, whether it's a desk phone or a Snicker bar type mobile unit, will be connected wirelessly. So therefore, people don't have to spend additional money on wiring the house or wiring the small office to accommodate that. You just hook up the base station next to the switch, and then the entire office, at least up to 10 phones on our solution, can be done wirelessly and be able to connect to all users within the DECT range.
The next slide brings up something most people don't even think about, and that's public address systems. What are some of the problems in public address systems, and that SIP can help us develop and produce good products?
Yes, in the legacy systems, whether it be analog or a proprietary system, many had hooks into a PA system. Take, for example, you can have a school that was connected to an old system that you could push an extension on a key, and that will automatically kick off a speaker, whether it be, making a school announcement over a PA system. But once you upgrade that proprietary system into SIP, the audio part's easy because we provide the phones and the wireless systems, but what do you do about the existing PA? Well, the great news is that there's a solution out there that is capable of connecting the upgraded SIP system to work with your existing PA system that's working today, either on analog or on a proprietary system.
Let's talk about selecting the right one, because in today's world, there seems to be a lot of emergency announcements going on, and you never know what's going to be happening outside. So how do you select a good system?
That's true. Very often, a lot depends on the application. In the case of schools, airports, hotels, upgrading it into SIP, you want, in most cases, the speaker as well as the amplifier is fully capable and working. So there's no need to provide additional investment in there. What you want is really a tool that we provide, which is actually titled the SNOME PAOne, which is capable of bridging the SIP system, whether it be hosted or on-prem, into your existing speaker system. So that will greatly reduce the amount of investment required by the end client to upgrade their entire system and have a fully operational system working. So the system that we provide is really just a simple bridge that gives the school the capability of addressing their paging system just like they would a phone. If they want to dial, say, page in room 305, they can just dial 305, for example, and actually talk to one room, or you can actually set it up so that the paging can make an emergency announcement to the entire school. So the scenario has to leave that level of flexibility, which, we could provide those solutions to the marketplace.
Brian, I've known SNOM for years, and then VTech purchased SNOM. So what's the state of VTech and SNOM today?
Back in 2016, VTech bought SNOM, and VTech is a company that's been around for 43 years, and we've always been one of the leading players in the telecommunications industry. When it comes to business, VoIP, and SIP technology, SNOM has always been best in class in a global nature. So when we bought SNOM, we wanted to bring that brand name into the U.S. We had been distributing VTech branded SIP telephony, but it made a lot more sense for us to introduce the SNOM brand in the U.S., bring all of their skills and assets into this market, and we believe that's going to deliver to our end users and customers a best-in-class solution.
I've noticed over the years SNOM has done very well with business phone solutions for enterprises and small organizations. Would you take us through some of the products you have?
You bet. So we've got a broad array of products, and I really think that that's what kind of separates us from other brands in the market. You can see here this is our lineup of SIP desk sets. We've got everything from a entry-level phone, 2-line, small display, all the way up to an executive phone with a 4.3-inch color LCD and 6 configurable, 24 programmable function keys. So we carry the gamut.
You provided me a chart here. Would you help us understand the differences among these phones?
We offer a broad array of phones, starting with an entry-level phone such as the D120. 2 SIP lines, accounts. It's got a 2.3-inch LCD. We step up to the D17, which offers you a larger color LCD and 2.8-inch, 4 SIP identities or lines. Stepping up once again to the D735, 2.8-inch color LCD, 12 lines, and 8 programmable function keys. And then all the way up to our executive D785, which is full 4.3-inch color, 24 self-labeling, configurable program function keys.
One of the things I wanted to add, Gary, is that all of the solutions that Brian just spoke about is also warranted for 3 years as well, so that we will warrant the entire product for most typical contract applications from a partner's perspective.
People are keeping their phones for quite a long time. They'll partner with a service provider. They get used to the phone system that they have. They enjoy the functionality and how it works, and they want to maintain that, and they want to add to it as they grow and add additional desk sets. So we see that, once a customer selects a brand, selects a solution, they're inclined to stay with that for quite some time. So the 3-year warranty is extremely important because they're keeping it to that level of time. Is absolutely.
Let's move on and talk about mobility. And mobility solutions, especially in the wireless world, are important. Talk about this keyline wireless DECT solution you have.
You bet. So Tommy spoke about that earlier. It's really one thing that provides the Stone brand a real advantage in the market. We kind of talk about this as a small business in a box solution for offices that aren't necessarily completely wired to have a wired desk set in every office locale. With this solution, Adam, all you have to do is locate your base station near your SIP drop line, and then all of the desk sets and handsets connect to that system via DECT 6.0 technology. So you're completely free to place a desk set or a handset in any office that you'd like on your property. And it's very easy to maintain, so it really is a easy solution for the end user, small SMB.
I see in the next picture you have 2 different models. What's the difference?
The difference on these particular models here are the number of handsets that can be affiliated with each model. So with the M400, it handles up to 8 endpoints, handsets. Then you go to the M325, it can handle up to 20 SIP endpoints. And we also have solutions on the M325 where you have professional and also rugged type based handsets for tougher environments such as warehouse, maybe outdoor garden centers.
But with some places they have even more handset requirements, and a multi-cell solution is warranted.
Right. So this is really an incredible option here. In the previous slide, you saw the one base station. With this system, you can use either extenders or base stations, adding up to 253, so that you can have extensions completely throughout your property and not you lose any coverage in your connectivity to your phone system.
Now let's move forward. You have a lot of conferencing technology available to us. So let's start off with these models.
That the C620 is our SIP wireless conference phone, and this one is new in that it is completely wireless. It connects to a SIP base station, and it's rechargeable in that you can take it to any office environment you want, and it will speak to the base station via DECT 6.0 technology. It's also very scalable in that you can add the accessory C52 and have multiple conference phones in one room, which means everybody's getting a good audio experience.
We have some more units on the next slide. What's the difference between these and the previous ones?
You bet. The difference is connectivity. The C520 are wired versions of the previous slide. So the C520 will plug directly into your SIP line, and then you can scale that whole experience with the C52 and add multiple conference phones into the same room. So again, everybody's having a best-in-class audio experience.
The last thing Tommy and I had talked about was public address systems. What do you have available there?
This is our PAOne, and Tommy spoke a lot about this earlier, but it's very applicable to a lot of schools, hospitals, that type of environment who use PA systems quite frequently. And a lot of schools and hospitals and other offices are now upgrading from their analog system to a SIP-based program, but they don't want to replace the speakers and the PA system and the amps they currently have. So the PAOne will allow that existing system to interface with a new SIP desk network.
I noticed on the next page it shows the kind of connections you were talking about. Would you explain more of that?
Yeah, and the PAOne, as you can tell, there's lots of connectivity. It's powered by power over Ethernet, so all it needs is a PoE connection, which enables it to go. But it also has there's a 4-watt amplifier that you can connect directly to it, since there's a 4-watt amp. But you could also use these connections to really connect into the existing amplifier that exists today. The secondary application for it is being able to provide a multicast relay within a small business. This is very critical when people are having a hosted system provide remote voice into an SMB. This gives that company the ability to, in essence, broadcast audio throughout all their different phones and peripherals within their office using this PAOne device.
I'd like to mention to people there's some good contact information here for VARs and resellers and service providers. There's a set of resources here of SNOM Americas that you should be looking at to see what you can deal with. And thank you very much, Tommy and Brian, for today's EDUcast.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Gary.
your time, Gary, very much. Thank you.